So the title of this message will be my final one as far as on the trials there. It's titled, The Loss is the Dross. The loss is the dross. And we're going to be in 1 Peter chapter 1. 1 Peter chapter 1. The loss is the dross. And Brother Jimmy's going to stand and he's going to read 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 6 for us. So listen carefully to him. Follow along as you find it there. 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 6.
Wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, ye are in heaviness through manifold temptations.
So that verse there talks about several things that I want to define real quickly. It talks about the season, which is a specific, unique duration of time with a definite beginning and a definite ending. And this verse makes it clear that you will have seasons of trials. You will have these times of afflictions. It says if it need be, if it's necessary, and it says that you are in heaviness. The word heaviness means pain, grief, vexation, to experience deep emotional pain, severe sorrow, very intense, such as the pain of childbirth, sadness, distress, that you are in heaviness by these manifold, which are various kinds, or by the word itself, manifold temptations. That word means a putting to proof, adversity, affliction, or trouble. And the truth is, you as a Christian or you as a human being in general, whether you're Christian or not, you're going to have a lot of temptations there, as we define it there, afflictions, trouble. And that's why 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 12 tells us this as Christians, because a lot of times these come as you're in the middle of doing good. You're in the middle of doing what is right, such as with Job and such as with Joseph. Not that they were perfect, sinless people, but they were in the middle of not really doing anything really wrong. And then it's as if their life falls apart. You're going to find that happen in your life. You're going to have those times that come. That's why 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 12 is put there. And Brother Zach's going to stand and read that for us.
That the trial of your faith would be much more precious than gold that perishes, though.
That's right. 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 7. That's right. You read the right one. So it talks about the trial of your faith, and that is what we're talking about here, the trial of your faith. And then I'll read 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 12. Do appreciate those gentlemen doing that. In 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 12, it talks about a specific kind of trial, or it gives an imagery to this trial of what exactly it is. In 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse number 12, and 1 Peter's right before 2 Peter, right? If you didn't know that. 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 12, Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange happen unto you. When these trials come, we as Christians, your first response to it, your reaction to it, is that it's strange. And this word strange means unheard of. This is unbelievable. Why in the world this doesn't even make sense? This is not how the world works. You don't have bad things happen when you're doing good things. That's just not how this takes place. And you'll begin to count it as strange. And he says, don't count it as strange when this fiery trial comes to try you. That word fiery means literally refining. The refining trial that is to try you. So I titled the message, The Loss is the Dross. And if you don't know what dross is the impurities that during the refining process of gold, the refining, when that takes place, that dross is what comes to the top of the melted ore, the melted rock, the melted gold, and that dross comes to the top. And if you're familiar with gold, you know 24 karat gold is like the top perfection kind of gold there. It's the only kind of gold I buy, Cassie, 24 karat. And 14 karat would be 14 part gold, 10-part impurity. So that's where they get the numbers of what the gold is. If you have 24 karat gold, it's pretty much all gold. There are no impurities pretty much in it at all. It's like 0.999999999. If you have 14 karat, like I said, it's 14 gold, 10 still has impurities. So in this process of refining, which I'm going to illustrate for you again as I did at camp, you're going to see kind of how it worked and what it looks like. And it's exactly how in 1 Peter chapter 1, where they read those verses, he illustrates how trials work, how it works in your life. And you've got to know how it works to know what is going on, or you're going to be a Christian who you're constantly thinking it's a strange thing that this is happening to you. But it's not supposed to be a strange thing. It's not supposed to be unheard of. You should understand that it is going to come and understand how to respond to it. So I thank God for this opportunity today to preach. I'm just amazed at the grace of God. I believe I've preached 3 sermons concerning trials, and when I got done with the third one, I knew that there was one more. I didn't conclude it the way that I wanted to. I just ran out of time there. And didn't think I'd get the opportunity, being with the schedule. And then also at the beginning of summer, I thought, man, it'd be really cool to preach on my spiritual birthday. And being on a Sunday, I thought I wouldn't get that opportunity. Then yesterday, Pastor Chris comes up to me out of the blue and asks if I could preach. And today's my 25th spiritual birthday. I got saved 25 years ago at Hoosier Hills Baptist Camp. And just a blessing to be able to preach on this day. And also a blessing to wrap up my messages on trials. So Brother Chris asking me that was a tremendous blessing and answer to prayer. So what was important for me to say that I wasn't able to say in my previous message is the following. Trials will come, but understand with trials that they are refining. That's what they are. The fiery trial. The whole nature of the trial that's going on in your life is to bring about the refining purpose in your life. That's the whole purpose. God, why would you bring this in my life? Why would you allow this? Why would you not allow this? What are you doing? This is a strange thing. You have to understand that it's entirely for the purpose of refining. So the example of refining I gave you, how it works, is what they would do is they would find the ore, or we're just going to call it the rock here, and I illustrated the first thing they do is they break it. So when you have trials in your life, the first thing you're going to go through is a breaking. That's what's going to happen. There's going to be things that break in your life. You say, what does that look like? It's more of a humbling. That's what I'm meaning by breaking. Cass and I were talking about this last night, just different people through the Bible that you saw this in. Joseph was the favorite son. He had the coat of many colors. His life was like in order. The dreams of he's going to be leading even his own parents and his brothers and all this, and then all of a sudden his life is just breaks. Moses is the prince of Egypt. He's the prince of Egypt, the most powerful nation pretty much in the world at that time, and all of a sudden his life is broke. He's completely humbled in that. David is anointed king, and then he spends all of these years on the run from Saul, and he was being broken. Paul, the Pharisee of the Pharisees, where we get the saying, knocked off his high horse, and he was broken. And you're going to find this happen in your life. And I referenced it. I think it was John R. Rice or his daughter who said, I've never seen God truly use a person that has not been broken. And that breaking will come. And that's where the Bible, you read it a lot in the Old Testament, the Bible talks about something being like a hammer and breaking. And I found this brick here. I couldn't break the rock at camp because it was pretty intense. And I also didn't want to hit it as hard as I could and it break off and get in everybody's eyes and everything. So I'm going to see if I can break this just to illustrate the point without slamming it and it knocking Erica out in front of us here. So we'll see what happens. So the refiner would hit the rock, would break it. So when you're going to go through a trial, like we illustrated there in 1 Peter chapter 1, That's what's going to happen to you. You're going to get broken. And you're going to count it strange that how in the world could God allow me to be broken? Why is this even happening? God, this doesn't even make sense. You gave me a dream to be a great leader, and I'm a slave of Potiphar. God, you gave me a dream to deliver the children of Israel, and I'm a shepherd in the wilderness. Like, why is this happening? This does not make sense. And God's going to break you, but in that breaking, why that's necessary for the refiner to do is to expose the gold that is in there. The good thing that is in there, because it can't be melted unless it's exposed. It can't be refined unless it's exposed. And then what he'll do is he'll put in an instrument called a crucible, an instrument that can go into the furnace. So he sticks this in there. Oh boy, I didn't break it small enough. Just pretend I'm sticking that in there. This one might fit possibly. We just have one that's good enough. There we go. So he puts it in there, and now he can melt this whole thing down to where the gold will settle and the dross will come to the top. So first thing is going to be when you are in a trial is God's going to allow you to be broken, humbled. There's going to be something that comes and something that God allows that's going to just break you. You're not going to be the hot shot anymore. You're not going to be the prince of Egypt anymore. You're not going to be the beloved son anymore. You're going to be brought very, very low. And when you first hear that, you think, man, that's not good. No, you're misunderstanding. That's very good. That's where you find the grace of God. He resists the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. He lifts you up when you are brought down. That's what God does. It's a good thing. But then what happens in the refining process is you're going to be put into the furnace. You're going to be put into some very heated situations. You're going to be put into very stressful situations. God is going to allow you in your life, and if you don't understand this, you're going to be like, this is so strange that I thought the Christian life was supposed to be just stress-free, no problems, God's on your side. You're going to start thinking, is there terrible sin in my life? What is going on? No, it's none of that unless you know of a sin that you need to get right. But if you're just like, man, I don't understand what's going on, just understand that God has you in that. And when the refiner would put you in this, which is about 2,000 degrees minimum, because I think it's 1,900 something that gold even melts. It's in my notes, but I'm not going to go up there to see it. In this process, this is very important to understand, the refiner is sitting there the whole time. And he is watching this the whole time. He's not doing this like a crock pot and going to church and then coming back. He is sitting there the whole time watching it. And he watches for particular impurities to come up, and he'll have some kind of gloves and things to get it, or he'll reach down in there with a long handle and he will remove the impurities. That's the whole purpose of this. The whole purpose of this is to make you pure. He's taking the impurities out of this. And at certain temperatures, there's certain impurities that he knows will come out. That's what he does. So he'll adjust the temperature to higher and higher and higher. And he's there the whole time watching it, making sure that he's not harming anything that's not supposed to be harmed. The refiner cares about this process here and is taking care of this. And that's the whole picture that 1 Peter's giving as it talks about this. So my question is this: when God breaks you, when God allows you to be boiled in just intense parts of your life, and you're stressed and you're overwhelmed, and the whole definition of tribulation is intense external pressure and internal pressure. That's what a tribulation is. When you're going through that in your life and that is happening, the question is this: what kind of person are you in the end? What kind of person came out? What was said? What defines you when you're going through those really hard times, those really intense times? During those times of trials in your life, what kind of person are you? Are you overwhelmed? Are you angry? Are you questioning? Are you hurt? Are you stressed? Are you backslidden? Are you weary? Are you quitting? Are you defeated? Are you miserable through the process? We know even Job, who went through this, he got to the place where he started getting, it was very hot, it was very intense in his life. And thank God he came to the place where he said, I have been a foolish man, I've spoken what I shouldn't speak, and God did the process through him in there. So how do you know that you are going through the trials to the end, fulfilling God's purpose in it all? There's three characteristics I'm going to look at real quickly about going through a trial. I don't want you to get the wrong idea, which is important for this whole series that I've been kind of preaching. I don't want you to think that the Christian life is nothing but miserable, nothing but trials, and you count it strange when affliction comes while you are doing good. But also the reality is those refining trials do come in your life as a Christian. And if you don't expect it, it's going to, as somebody said after I preached this message about it, because they had it done to them, it's like the rug is pulled out from under you. You go into the ministry, you go into truly following Christ in whatever nature that may be, and then all of a sudden there's this trial that comes that takes you completely by surprise, and you don't know what to do about it. These trials do come, and they come right in the middle of doing good. I could go through time and time in Cassie and I's life that it's just like, wow, that was strange. Why'd that happen? In the middle of serving God, in the middle of Bible college, being married and having 4 different jobs and working in the ministry as an assistant pastor and doing all those things that we were doing, and get pregnant and happy and excited, and then a miscarriage. Like, that's strange. We're doing everything good in our life, and then something like this happens, and betrayal and false accusations and a house fire where we lose everything, and it's all in the middle of serving God and doing what is right. This is strange. There's times I said during these times, I wouldn't do this to my own child. Why would God allow this? But it was because of a misunderstanding of trials. It was a misunderstanding of, this is what God's trying to do, and through it, when that impurity comes to the top, when that anger and frustration and whatever sin may be, that impurity comes to the top, you've got to let God take it out. You've got to let God take it out. That's the whole purpose. If you miss it, then you're going to go through these trials consistently, all the time, because God's trying to bring something in your life to bring the impurity up and take it out. But so many times we as Christians, we don't come to God with it. We don't say to God, dear God, I am an angry person. Dear God, I am a sinful person. I am a bitter person. I am a frustrated person. I'm an impatient person. Would you please take it away? We rarely do that as Christians because we're so focused on the heat. We're so focused on the breaking and so focused on trying to figure it out and so focused on questioning God that we miss the whole point. And then he takes us out, and he has to put us back in. Because the point isn't just to see if you can make it. The point isn't to see how much you can take. The point is to take the impurity out. That's the whole purpose of it. That's the whole point of it. And if you don't allow God to do that, then you're going to have a very difficult Christian life. You have to understand what God is doing. So what happens when you let God do his work in the refining trial? What happens? And here's the great part about it. Just real quickly, I'm going to go through it real fast. In the refining trial, God does 3 things to everything. He does it to the situation. He does it to your faith. He does it to you. He does it to everything. If you allow him to do what he wants to do in this process, there's going to be 3 things happen in your life, and it is awesome. Number 1 is this, blessed. James chapter 1 verse 12 says, blessed is a man that endureth. What's the first 3 letters of endureth? End. Endureth temptation. Remember 1 Peter 1:6, manifold temptation. Blessed is a man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. That word blessed is makarios, God extends his benefits. Here's what that word means. The person that endures the trial and the temptation, God extends his benefits to that person. You are happy. This is such an awesome definition. It literally means to be envied. Others will envy what God has given you. Your peace, your happiness, your contentment, your marriage, your family, your life. People will be envious. That's what the word blessed literally means, is you are so blessed that people look at you and they're like, man, that's what I want. But you have to understand the only way that you get a pure anything is through this process. It has to be through this process. Your marriage will not be pure if you don't go through this process like you're supposed to. Your life will not be pure. Anything in your life will not be pure. This is how it works right here, how you get really pure. James 5:10 says, take my brethren the prophets who have spoken in the name of the Lord for an example of suffering affliction. You mean prophets suffered affliction? A lot of it, yeah. And of patience. Behold, we count them happy which endure. James chapter 5, verse 11. That word happy is almost the same word as the word blessed in James 1:12. The one in James 1:12 is makarios. This one in James 5:11 is makarizo. And this word is the same, just a different variation. It means this, specifically not the act of receiving the blessing like 1:12, but it's the result of receiving it. So in James 1:12, it wasn't the act of receiving it, but now we see in James chapter 5, verse 11, it's the act of it. You're happy. You're blessed because of what you've received of God. You know who they use as an example? It means enjoying the benefits, happy. The end of James 5:11 says this, ye have heard of the patience of Job, have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercy. In other words, he's saying this, if you want to know what the end of every trial you go through is supposed to be, it's supposed to be like Job. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. In other words, it's this, Job was blessed twice more than what he was before the trial. In other words, when you get to the end of the trial, you know that you did what you were supposed to do through it because you're happy. You're blessed. You're not bitter. You're not miserable. You're not angry because of the trial, but you're a blessed person. You're a happy person. We count them happy. I'm telling you, the trial may be hard, but every time if you endure, I'm telling you, you're going to have them and they're going to be hard. The trial itself is going to be miserable, but it's not to make you miserable. The trial is going to be hard, but it's not to make you hard. That's not the point of it. If you endure, everything gets blessed beyond imagination, and you are happy, as illustrated by Job. Number 2 is beautiful. Ecclesiastes 3:1-10, if you're familiar with that passage, it talks about a time to be born, a time to die, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, mourn, dance, time to get, lose, time to war, time of peace. It talks about all these seasons and times. And then Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 10 says, I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. And in the midst of the seasons and times, Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, to everything there is a season. Remember 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 6 that Jimmy read? It said that it's a season. To everything there's a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. And Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11 says, he hath made everything. How much is everything? He hath made everything beautiful in his time. In his time. This will be beautiful in his time. It will be pure gold. But you have to go through this process. It will be blessed. It will be beautiful. Beautiful means appropriate, fair, fitting, pleasant, well, goodly, Cassie. Beautiful. Number 3 is this. Everything in the trial, everything. You have to understand this. I didn't want you all to think, man, Justin is a negative Norman. He just trials and Christian life. And man, it just sounds miserable. He's up there that one sermon, can't even preach because he's crying so much and all these things. I want you to understand That's what the trials will do. But when you endure the trials, I guarantee you, according to the authority of God's word, the end of that trial will be blessed. The end of that trial will be beautiful. And lastly, everything will be better. Everything will be better. More improved, progressed. James chapter 1 verses 2 through 4 says, My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience, but let patience have a perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. What's that mean? That means better. Everything gets better. Everything is improved. You know, that is all the refiner is trying to do. You know all that he's trying to do? He's trying to take that rock and he's trying to make it blessed. He's trying to make it beautiful. He's trying to make it better. That's all he's trying to do. That's his whole goal in the process. But the only way is to get rid of the bad. That is all that he is doing. The dross is the loss. God is so good, so kind, so gracious, so merciful, never leaving your side in the process. Never leaving your side in the process. Never letting you go through more than he can give you the strength to endure through Jesus Christ. And when he knows it is done, the test, like I told you when I preached this, the test to see whether the gold is pure without impurities, the test is he takes it out and he looks into it, and when he can see his reflection, that's when the process is done. So if every time God takes you through a trial, he looks at your life and he doesn't see his reflection in how you speak, in how you behave, in how you live, in how you respond, then it's back into the trial. It's only when he can see the reflection of Jesus Christ in your life, that's when he knows. And that's the place that we're trying to get to. That's the place, that's the goal to get to through the trial. 1 Peter 2, 21 through 23 says, For even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us example, that ye should follow his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth, who when he was reviled, reviled not again. When he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judgeth righteously. What happens when God leads you through the refining fire? What happens? Yes, there is loss, but he always gives back more. Always. Yes, there is pain, but the refiner makes you stronger. Yes, there is weakness, but the refiner gives you more strength. And in the end, the trial always leaves everything that's in the process blessed, beautiful, better. The dross is the loss. In your trials, are you blessed? You don't have to raise your hand, but I wonder how many of you are going through a trial. How many have gone through trials? How many of you know you're going to go through trials? And here's what you've got to ask yourself. When I'm in that trial, am I blessed? Do you truly have something others envy? Do you have something your spouse envies when you go through a trial? Do you have something your children envy? Do you have something that your friends envy? And they're just like, man, I wish I had that. That's how you know you're blessed. Are you happy? That's why with trials, you always find in Scripture it talks about joy and rejoicing in the trials. Are you more beautiful through the trial? Your life, your attitude, your words, your marriage, your family? And are you better, being made perfect and entire one time? If not, then you are not allowing the refiner to do his work. It's wonderful. You need to have joy and rejoicing in this time because the end result is awesome. You can trust God in it. So do you talk, trust, behave, look more like Christ in the trial, or do you always look more like you? When you come out of the furnace, do people, more importantly the refiner, do they see, hear, sense Christ, or see, hear, sense you? Is the dross the only loss? Pastor Chris.
Let's do this today. Let's bow our heads or close our eyes. I'm going to have one of our young ladies come play in just a second. But the timing of it was very interesting. It wasn't planned yesterday. But I would imagine that not only amongst staff members, but amongst our church, imagine you can say, yeah, I can see the trials that are going on right now. And you don't like what starts to come out of those trials. Out comes out the impatience, the fear starts coming out of the trial, the doubt starts coming out of the trial, the worry starts coming out. And those drosses start rising to the top, and we hate it. But it's the process that God wants to take us through to make us more like him. And so we should rejoice when we're in manifold temptations. We rejoice through the trial, not the trial itself, but what he's doing through the trial. We're very thankful for that. And so I'm going to have her play for a moment, and I'm going to have us stay seated. And as she plays, I want you to talk to the Lord. I want you to, if you would, talk to the Lord on this level. Lord, in the trial that I'm going through, I can see you're bringing out. In the trial I'm going through, I can see you're bringing out, and it's going to be some impurities that he's bringing out, and I can see it. It keeps coming out of my heart or my mouth or my mind. I can see you're bringing it out. Take it away. Take it off the top. Work in my life. As she plays for a moment, let's talk to the Lord about these things.